streets of Flatbush. It had been cool going back in time to meet Jackie Robinson. I had enough information to do my report. I was exhausted. All I wanted to do was go back home to Louisville and fall into my bed. But I couldn't do that. Not yet, anyway. Dad had given me an assignment. I had to at least try to carry it out. I had to find a baseball card store. My plan was to buy as many cards as I could carry. Then I would go back to Jackie Robinson's hotel. In the middle of the night, I would use my Ken Griffey Jr. card to take me and my old cards to the future. It was about 5 o'clock in the afternoon when I left Abbott's Field. I started wandering around the streets looking for a baseball card store. Brooklyn didn't look anything like Louisville. It didn't look anything like Manhattan either. The street was filled with people, almost all white people. Old guys in undershirts sitting on lawn chairs. Women gathered in clusters, gabbing in Italian, German, and Irish accents. I didn't see any black people, and I had the sense that the white people on the street were staring at me. Vendors pushed carts down the street. One guy was selling corn on the cob from a big basket he attached to his bike. Another came around sharpening knives and scissors. There wasn't a baseball card store in sight. Kids were everywhere. Girls playing hopscotch, roller skating, jumping rope. Boys pitching pennies, flicking yo-yos, playing dominoes, marbles, and games I'd never seen before. Back home in Louisville, most of the games I played with my friends were video games. It was so noisy. Radios blared out of every window. Trolleys clanged and screeched around the corners. There was a siren somewhere, but nobody paid attention to it. Moms were leaning out their windows, calling their kids to come home and eat. I could hear somebody practicing scales on a violin. There was a bell in the distance, and all the kids started yelling, "Gujuma! Gujuma!" I couldn't imagine what that meant. But a minute later, a good humor truck arrived, and it all became clear. My eyes were wide open, and it was all very new and different to me. A group of shirtless boys were down the street playing stickball. Now this was a game I knew. In fact, back in Louisville, I ruled at stickball. I leaned up against a fence to watch them. For a bat, the kids were using a sawed-off broom handle with black tape around the lower half. The ball was an old tennis ball, hard and dead. They had drawn a scoreboard with chalk in the street. "Want to play?" The kid who said that was looking toward me, but I figured he must have been talking to somebody else. I turned around to see if anybody was behind me. "You," the kid said. "Colored boy, want to play?" Okay. I came around to the other side of the fence, and all the kids in the game jogged in from their positions. "Hey, I ain't playing with no nigger," one of the kids said. "Shut up, Louis," said another. I stood there awkwardly pretending I didn't care if they let me play or not. "The Dodgers got a colored guy now," a third kid said. "If it's okay with the bums, it's okay with me." "Me too. Forget about it," the kid they called Louis said, picking his shirt up off the ground. "I'm going home." "Okay," the biggest kid said. "You can play." They explained the ground rules to me. Home plate was a manhole cover. Trees on each side of the street were first and third base. Some kid's shirt lying on the ground was second base. A ball hit past one sewer was a single. 2 sewers was a double. 3 sewers, well, nobody could hit a ball that far. "You hit it past the Chevy on a fly, it's a double," a kid explained. "You hit it past the Ford, it's a triple." They assigned me to the team at bat. Everybody ran to their positions. A kid on my team picked up the bat and wiggled it around. "Look, I'm Pee Wee Reese," he boasted. "You look more like Rizzuto, Alphonse," somebody yelled, "and he stinks." The pitcher went into his windup, and the kid who was imitating Reese took a big swing at the ball. He dribbled an easy roller back to the pitcher for an out. Somebody told me it was my turn to hit. I grabbed the bat and walked up to the manhole cover. The broom was longer and thinner than anything I ever swung. I didn't want to make a fool of myself. I pumped the broom back and forth a few times. "Hey, look," somebody yelled. "It's Jackie Robinson." Everybody laughed. The pitcher went into his windup and tossed the tennis ball. It looked hittable, and I whipped the broom handle around. I could tell right away I got all of it. "Could be 3 sewers," somebody yelled. The ball was up high, curving to the left, toward an apartment building. As it came down, somebody said, "Uh-oh." The ball crashed against a window and shattered it. For a second, I just froze. I just stood there with the bat in my hand, admiring my home run. "That was a 25-cent ball," complained one of the kids. "You hooligans!" a lady screamed through the broken window. "I'm going to call the cops on you." "Run for it," one of the kids yelled. Instantly, they all dashed away like roaches after somebody turned the light on. I took off at top speed and ducked around the first corner. After I'd gone a couple of blocks and saw that nobody was chasing me, I slowed down and tried to act casual. If the lady told the police it was a black kid, it would be hard to hide. I didn't hear any sirens and relaxed a little. Stores lining the street were selling just about everything anybody would want to buy, it seemed. Fish, newspapers, pots and pans, radios, everything but baseball cards. I fished a dime out of my pocket and bought a hot dog from a street vendor. I noticed 4 kids kneeling on a corner. They were throwing something against a wall. As I got closer, I could see that they were flipping baseball cards. My dad told me he not only flipped cards when he was a kid, but he even put them in the spokes of his bike with a clothespin to make a noise like a motor. Incredible. Some of those cards would be worth hundreds of dollars. If these kids were smart, they'd put them in plastic pages instead of throwing them at a wall. But they didn't have a clue. "Excuse me," I asked one of the kids, "is there a baseball card store in this neighborhood?" The kids looked at me oddly, and then at each other. I wasn't sure if it was because of what I said, or because they weren't used to seeing black kids in their neighborhood. "Go back to Harlem, Jungle Bunny," one of the kids said. "Yeah, beat it," said another. They had me outnumbered 4-1. I wasn't about to pick a fight. "Look," I said as politely as possible, "I don't want any trouble. I just want to know if there's a store around here that sells baseball cards." "A what?" asked one of them, a kid who hadn't spoken before. He seemed nicer than his friends. "A store that sells baseball cards." "Bubblegum cards?" asked the kid. "Try the grocery on the corner of Flatbush Avenue. He might have some." The kid looked familiar to me somehow, but I couldn't place him. "Your turn, Flip," somebody urged the kid. "Flip?" I asked. "Your last name, it's not—" "Valentini," he replied. "What's it to you?" Flip Valentini. I had traveled back over 50 years, and who should I meet up with but the guy who lent me the Jackie Robinson card as a kid? The world was a strange place. "Let me give you a piece of advice," I told Flip Valentini. "Keep your bubblegum cards in a safe place. When you get older and you move out of your mom's house, take them with you. Whatever you do, don't let her throw them away." Flip looked at me like I was nuts and went back to his game. I bought another hot dog from a vendor and headed for the grocery store Flip told me about. The sign on the front of the store said, "Italian and American Groceries, Sam Herskowitz." Before opening the door, I hesitated. I knew that black people and white people used to have to use separate restaurants, separate hotels, even separate water fountains. Maybe I wouldn't be allowed in this store. But there was no sign on the door saying I couldn't come in, so I opened it. There was a man standing behind the counter, wiping it with a rag. I looked around the store. He sold a little bit of everything. Man, if only I could buy up all this stuff and save it for 50 years, I thought. I'd be rich. "Do you serve colored people here?" I asked. I wasn't exactly sure how to word that. When I was younger, we used the word black, but as I grew older, it became African American. Jackie Robinson, I noticed, referred to himself as a Negro. And white people in his time, when they weren't using the N-word or some other mean word, usually said colored. It was confusing. "There's only one kind of people I don't serve, son." "Who?" I asked. "Giants fans," he replied. "You're not one of them, are you?" "Oh, no," I said. "I'm for the Dodgers all the way." "Good boy. So, what can I do for you?" "I want to buy some bubblegum cards." He looked at me like I had told him I wanted to buy some elephants. "Are you Meshuggah?" he asked. I didn't know what that meant, so I didn't say anything. "Are you crazy?" he translated. "I don't sell bubblegum cards, son." I was about to turn around and walk out, but he reached under the counter and handed me a pack of cards. "I give them away." "You give them away?" I asked, astonished. "Why?" "Where are you from, son?" Companies give them to me with their products, as promotions to get people to buy stuff, you know? I couldn't sell them. Do you have any more I could keep? What do you want them for so bad? He asked, checking under the counter. I'm a collector, I replied. Garbage collector, the man mumbled to himself. He scooped up a few more packs and handed them to me. The door jingled open and a heavy-set delivery man came in. He was wheeling a dolly stacked with bread. On the back of his uniform was the word Bond. At first I didn't make the connection. Where should I put these, Mr. Herskowitz? The Bond bread guy asked. Mr. Herskowitz directed him to put the bread in the corner of the store. They both signed some papers. The Bond guy was about to leave when he stopped and turned around. Oh, I almost forgot. You want any of these, Mr. Herskowitz? They told me to clear them out of the warehouse. He held out a pack of baseball cards. Jackie Robinson cards. Bond Bread. That was the company that put out the Jackie Robinson card I used to travel back to 1947. There were 13 cards in that pack, I knew. It would sell for $5,000 back home. My eyes must have bugged out of my head. No thanks, said Mr. Herskowitz, but I bet this young man would take them off your hands. Here, kid. The Bond guy flipped me the pack of cards. I missed it, but scooped it off the floor like it was a gold nugget. How many of these do you have in the warehouse? I asked desperately. A few hundred, I guess, he replied. There are just stacks and stacks of them. Why, you want them? Want them? I did a quick mental calculation. If one pack was worth $5,000, 10 packs would be worth $50,000. 100 packs would be worth $500,000. 200 packs. I started to feel dizzy. Dad would go meshuggah when I showed up back home and handed him his suitcase with $1 million worth of baseball cards in it. I want them, I said, my voice cracking a little. Meet me back here first thing Thursday morning, the Bond guy said. I'll bring you everything I got. Can I go to the warehouse with you right now and pick them up? I asked hopefully. It's closed for the day, he informed me, and I gotta deliver all over the city between now and Wednesday. Just meet me back here on Thursday morning and I'll take care of you. I thanked the Bond guy about 10 times before he left. You must really love baseball cards, Mr. Herskowitz commented. I do, I said, turning to leave. By the way, you wouldn't have any Mickey Mantle cards lying around, would you? Mickey who? Forget it, I said, and closed the door behind me with a jingle. Chapter 11. Fighting Back. I was on cloud 9. I had met the great Jackie Robinson, just as I'd hoped to. I had been to Ebbets Field, and I even was a bat boy for the Brooklyn Dodgers. To top it all off, soon I would have $1 million worth of baseball cards. It doesn't get much better than this, I thought, as I rode the subway back to Jackie Robinson's hotel. Of course, I was going to have to change my time travel plans a little. I couldn't go home right away. I would have to stay in 1947 until Thursday to get the baseball cards from the Bond bread guy. But that was okay. I knew from the last time that no matter how long I stayed in the past, I would return home and wake up in my bed the morning after I left. The New York Giants and Philadelphia Phillies were coming into town. I could bat boy for the Dodgers for a few days, get the baseball cards on Thursday morning, and then go home. By the time I reached the McAlpin Hotel, it was dark outside. Mrs. Robinson was doing the dinner dishes when I knocked on the door. Jackie was playing peekaboo with Jackie Jr., trying to get him to stop crying, but it wasn't working very well. Joe, we need to talk, Mrs. Robinson said seriously as I greeted them. I tried to track down your mama. There's nobody named Stashak in Louisville, Kentucky. We need to know your real name and where you really live. I can explain, I said. My real name is Joe Stashak. I live in Louisville, Kentucky, and I know it's hard for you to believe this, but it's the truth. I went back in time to get here. I live 50 years into the future. That's why you couldn't find my mom. She's not there yet. Mrs. Robinson looked at Jackie, then held the back of her hand against my forehead. That's what Mom does when she's checking to see if I have a fever. Jack, she said finally, I think we should call the police. Don't call the police, I begged. I didn't do anything wrong. You expect us to believe that you traveled through time? expect you to believe it, I said sadly, but it's true. He's up on the boy, Ray, Jackie said. He's a good kid. Can I please stay with you until Thursday? I asked. Then I'll go back home. Promise. Mrs. Robinson didn't have much fight in her. It was late. She was tired. The dishes weren't done. Jackie was upset because he'd gone hitless on opening day. Jackie Jr. was upset because he was 5 months old and babies get upset for no particular reason. Thursday? Mrs. Robinson asked wearily. After that, you'll never see me again, I said honestly. Okay, you can stay, she said, putting the sheets on the couch for me, but I don't believe a word of that future stuff. The Dodgers beat the Braves again the next day, 13-6. Jackie didn't get good wood on the ball. He was pressing. It was obvious. He was nervous, anxious, and swinging at bad pitches. The next 2 games were against the New York Giants at the Polo Grounds. The Dodgers lost both, 10-4 and 4-3. Jackie didn't help much. I was getting pretty good at being a bat boy, though. I had learned the routine, which made everything a lot easier. After one of the Giants games, I even beat Ant in the daily shoeshine race. As if things weren't tough enough for Jackie, all kinds of rumors were swirling around. I heard some whispers around the clubhouse that he wasn't as good as the players expected him to be. Some newspaper articles said he might be sent down to the minor leagues for more seasoning. The St. Louis Cardinals, led by Dixie Walker's brother Harry, were rumored to be planning a strike if Jackie took the field against them. On the Dodgers, the players were cordial toward Jackie, but certainly not friendly. Nobody invited Jackie out to dinner after a game. Nobody sat next to him and told him jokes. He didn't join in the clubhouse card games. He was alone. The first road trip of the season was coming up, and word was passed around that the Dodgers wouldn't be staying at their usual hotel in Philadelphia, the Benjamin Franklin. Negroes weren't allowed there. The team would stay at the Warwick Hotel instead. Even at the Warwick, Jackie wouldn't be allowed to eat his meals in the main dining hall with the rest of the team. He would have to eat in his room. And Philadelphia was called the city of brotherly love. Then there were the threats. Part of my job was to go through fan mail, sort it, and put it in each player's locker. Nuts wrote to Jackie every day saying they were going to kill him. Somebody wrote that Jackie would be shot if he crossed the foul line to take the field the next day. There were threats to assault Rachel, to kidnap Jackie Jr. Don't tell Rachel, Jackie said simply as he handed me this. Note: we have already got rid of several like you. One was found in river just recently. Every time he stepped out of the dugout, Jackie looked up into the stands defiantly. It was as if he were daring somebody to take a shot at him. Jackie pretended that the pressure didn't bother him, but I could tell it did. It showed in his hitting. He was in a deep slump. I got up extra early Thursday morning. The Robinsons were still sleeping. I threw on my clothes, grabbed my dad's empty suitcase, and hopped on the subway to Brooklyn. The grocery store was closed when I arrived, but it wasn't long before Mr. Herskowitz arrived and unlocked the door. The bond truck pulled up shortly after. The delivery man hauled his bread out. "You're here bright and early," he said cheerfully as he rolled his hand truck into the store. "Did you bring the bubblegum cards?" I asked anxiously. "Yep," he replied. "Lucky I got 'em too, because my boss was about to throw 'em in the incinerator." He went back to the truck and brought out a large cardboard box. I pulled open the flaps, and there they were. Hundreds of packs, easy, of brand new, never opened, mint condition 1947 bond-bred Jackie Robinson baseball cards. It took my breath away. I felt my heart beating furiously, and my forehead began to sweat. This must be what it felt like to the guy who started the gold rush in California, I thought. I thanked the bond guy over and over again as I poured the packs of cards into my dad's suitcase. As he climbed back in his truck, I walked over and handed him one of the packs of cards. "You're going to think this is crazy, but save this," I told him. "Give it to your kids. Tell them to pass it on to their kids." "Why?" the guy asked. "You wouldn't believe me if I told you," I said. "Okay, kid," he shrugged, slipping the pack into his shirt pocket as he put the truck into gear. I had over $1 million worth of cards in my suitcase. I could have taken the subway back to the Robinsons' place and zapped myself back to the future with my treasure. But I was only a few blocks from Ebbets Field. The Dodgers would be hosting the Philadelphia Phillies at 2 o'clock. I decided to stash the suitcase in the back of Jackie's locker and work one last game before going home. The Phillies have always been pretty terrible. I knew that. In over 100 years, they won the World Series only once, in 1980. That's pathetic. But the Phils started the 1947 season pretty well, winning 4 of their first 6 games. They were in second place in the National League, just ahead of Brooklyn. As the Dodgers took the field in the first inning, Phillies manager Ben Chapman rose to the top of the dugout step. I saw him cup his hands around his mouth and holler, "Hey, nigger, why don't you go back to the cotton field where you belong?" Other teams had razzed Jackie from the bench, but no more than they razzed the other Dodgers. For the most part, they kept the N-word out of it. This was different. There was a hostility coming from Chapman that went beyond the usual baseball bench jockeying. This was pure hatred. The rest of the Phillies, taking their cue from their manager, joined in. "They're waiting for you in the jungles, black boy. Hey, Snowflake, want some watermelon?" "We don't want you here, Brownie." Their voices could be heard clearly in the Dodger dugout, which meant they could also be heard in the stands. The umpires didn't do anything about it. The Dodger bench was like a tomb. Everybody looked embarrassed. At first base, Jackie didn't make a peep, but he looked like a teapot just before it comes to a boil. Ralph Branca was the Dodgers' starting pitcher. He was a young guy, about 21. He threw hard. Branca got the Philly leadoff batter to slap a grounder to short. Pee Wee Reese scooped up the ball and threw it to Jackie at first base in time to get the out. But the batter didn't step on the right side of first base like you're supposed to. Instead, he aimed his foot for the left side, the side where Jackie's foot touched the bag. The hitter's spikes caught Jackie above the ankle. He crumpled to the ground like he'd been shot. I was sure Jackie was hurt bad and would leave the game, but he didn't lie there. He bounced up right away. He didn't want to give the Phillies the satisfaction of knowing they'd hurt him. A bloodstain spread slowly across Jackie's white sock. The Dodger trainer came out of the dugout, but Jackie waved him away. "What's the matter, Blackie?" yelled Ben Chapman from the Philly dugout. "Can't handle a little blood?" "It's red," Jackie yelled back, "just like yours." The game continued. Branca had good stuff, and the Phillies seemed powerless to hit him. The pitcher for the Phillies, Schoolboy Rowe, was just as sharp. A row of zeros crept across the scoreboard. As the innings went by, the insults coming from the Philly dugout got nastier. Chapman and his players were shouting awful things I had never heard before and can't bring myself to repeat. In the 5th inning, a few of the Phillies got up out of their dugout, pointed their bats toward Jackie, and made machine gun noises. In the 6th inning, one of them tossed a live black cat out of the dugout and yelled, "Hey, Robinson, there's your cousin." The Dodger bench had been quiet the whole game, but after the cat was captured and removed from the field, Eddie Stanky suddenly stood up. "Listen, you yellow-bellied cowards," he shouted. "Why don't you work on somebody who can fight back? There isn't one of you has the guts of a louse." It was the first time I'd heard any of the Dodgers stand up for Jackie. "Stanky's a nigger lover," one of the Phillies shouted. After 7 innings, it was still a scoreless tie. Branca and Rowe were pitching beautifully. Jackie was set to lead off the 8th inning. As the insults rained down on him from the opposing dugout, I handed him his favorite bat in the on-deck circle. "How can you take it?" I asked him. "Why don't you fight back?" "I fight back in my own way," he said. He took the bat and walked up to the plate. "Shine my shoes after the game, Sambo," one of the Phillies yelled. Schoolboy Rowe's first pitch was up and in, high up and far in. Jackie dove backward to avoid taking it on the skull. His bat went flying as he hit the dirt. "Ball 1," called the ump. Jackie got up off the ground. There was fire in his eyes. He looked ferocious. He wouldn't let anyone intimidate him. He was fearless. I retrieved his bat and handed it to him. "Charge the mound," I urged him. "Go get him." "No," he said firmly. "That's not how I operate." It wasn't the first time I'd seen somebody throw at Jackie's head. Pitchers had been making him eat dirt on a daily basis. "I see you've got the guts to knock me down," Jackie yelled at Schoolboy Rowe. "Do you have the guts to throw the ball over the plate?" Jackie had told me that after throwing a beanball, 9 out of 10 pitchers will throw a curveball over the outside corner. Most hitters are so intimidated by the beanball that they're too afraid to lean over the plate and get the hittable pitch. Rowe's next pitch was a lazy curve over the outside corner. Jackie went out and got it, ripping a single up the middle that just about took Rowe's head off. As soon as Jackie reached first base, everybody in the Dodger dugout slid to the front edge of the bench. Whenever Jackie got on, you just knew he was going to try something. As Gene Hermansky stepped into the batter's box, Jackie took a lead at first base. An impossibly long lead. Rowe threw over and Jackie dove to the bag just ahead of the tag. He sprang right up and took the same lead again, maybe even a step further. Rowe glared at him. Jackie glared right back. Rowe threw over to first again, and again Jackie dove back to the bag, just ahead of the tag. "I'm stealing on the next pitch," he shouted at Rowe in that squeaky voice of his. "Do anything you want. You can't stop me." Rowe did his best to concentrate on Hermansky, but he kept peeking at Jackie out of the corner of his eye. Jackie was dancing up and down the base path, daring Rowe to try and pick him off. He never stood still. He would dash up the line in a full run, as if he were going to steal, but then he'd stop and go back to first base. Everybody was transfixed. Even the Phillies stopped heckling for the moment. "Too chicken to throw a pitch, schoolboy?" one of the Dodgers hollered. Rowe looked exasperated. Finally, he made a hurried pitch. Jackie took off to steal second. He took short strides and didn't seem to be running all that fast, but he got down to second base quickly. It didn't matter. Rowe's pitch bounced in the dirt and skipped past the catcher. Jackie saw the wild pitch. Instead of sliding and settling for the easy stolen base, he rounded second and scampered halfway to third. The ball, however, bounced off the back wall and right to the Philly catcher. He scooped it up and whipped it to third. Jackie knew he couldn't make it there. He stopped dead in his tracks. He had gone too far and he knew it. He was hung up in a rundown. "We got you now, colored boy." The Philly pitcher, second baseman, and first baseman ran to the second base side. The catcher and shortstop ran to third base. The whole Phillies team was lined up with one goal in mind: to get Jackie. Even the outfielders ran in to help out. Everybody knows what the fielders are supposed to do in a rundown. Chase the runner back to the base and tag him there, using the fewest number of throws possible. A ball flies faster than a runner runs, so it should be a simple matter to tag him out. The Phillies chased Jackie back toward second, but as soon as they threw the ball there, he reversed direction and headed for third. They threw to third, and he reversed direction again. As the Phillies chased him, Jackie dashed back and forth as if he had an on-off switch to change directions. After 5 throws, the Phillies were bumping into each other. Finally, one of the Phillies dropped the ball. Jackie slid face first into third base, kicking up a cloud of dust. The Brooklyn fans went crazy. In the Philly dugout, Ben Chapman whacked a bat against the wall. Not only had Jackie humiliated his entire team, but now he represented the winning run at third with nobody out. The Phillies went back to their positions, their heads down. Schoolboy Rowe was trying to keep calm, but you could tell he was fuming. He had pitched a great game, a shutout, and now he was in danger of becoming the losing pitcher. "I'm going to steal home now," Jackie taunted. "Don't think I won't try." He would have too, I had no doubt, but Hermansky lined the next pitch to left for a single. Jackie slid home just ahead of the tag. Dodgers 1, Phillies 0. When the Dodgers took the field in the top of the 9th inning, the Philly bench started in on Jackie again. "Better not touch his towels, Pee-wee. You might catch a disease." At that comment, Pee-wee Reese left his position at shortstop. I thought he was going to march right into the Philly dugout and start throwing punches around, but he didn't. He walked over to first base, where Jackie was standing. Casually, as if he were hanging out with a buddy, he put his arm around Jackie's shoulder and chatted with him. A gasp escaped from the crowd. It didn't seem like a big deal to me, but everyone else in the ballpark was astonished. I guess they had never seen a white man treat a black man as a friend, as an equal. That's the way the game ended. Dodgers 1, Phillies 0.